Hi everyone and welcome back to the Ride on Crime podcast. My name is Carley Widner and today I am joined by Tristyn Williams, who is a ambassador fellow for Café Momentum. Tristyn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing great. We're really excited to chat to you today. We found Café Momentum about 9 months ago and saw them on social media. I think I saw them on Instagram, just y'all's reels and stuff, and I thought, oh my goodness, this programming is so cool. Got the opportunity to go down to Dallas and meet Chad and see y'all's location, and was like, Olivia, is there any chance I can talk to one of your ambassadors? So whenever they connected me to you, I was thrilled. And I really wanted to start this off just hearing a little bit about you. If you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story, I would love that.
Yeah, so my name is Tristyn Williams. I'm 22 years old. I am in Dallas, Texas. And would you specifically, do you want my journey with Café Momentum or just about me in general?
Both. That would be amazing. Yeah, if you could just talk about you, but also how you found Café Momentum and just what got you involved and why now you're passionate about being an ambassador.
Yeah, of course. So I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. I was raised by a single teenage mom. And I had a really rocky childhood, which led me down the road of, falling into the wrong crowds and doing things that I had no business doing at a very early age. My involvement with the justice system actually started when I was 15 years old. I had been in and out of the juvenile detention center here in Dallas twice, but my second time coming out, I had actually found out that I was 3 months pregnant with my first child. So obviously, I'm in Texas, so we have child labor laws and things like that. So I came out to a very hectic situation. I had a lot of things I needed to be taken care of, right away. I was falling behind in school. I needed a job to provide for my child financially. And, my home situation was still pretty rocky. I was in between places with my family. So, I didn't really have a sturdy ground to land on. But thankfully, I actually had a friend who was a part of the Café Momentum program who introduced me to it, because the age ranges for the employees is actually 15 to 19. So it was somewhere that I could guarantee, a job that was stable. So they convinced me to go to the orientation for Café Momentum. And it was just like fireworks, not fireworks, but it was a connection as soon as I walked through those doors. Um, they treated me like family, like they knew me for years as soon as I came in. And, they helped meet all of the needs that I needed immediately when I got there. So, like me mentioning being pregnant, they got me into parenting classes. They even threw a baby shower for me, which my own family wasn't even able to do at the time.
That's amazing.
Um, Yeah. And like I said, falling behind in school, Café Momentum actually opened the homeschool program, I believe about 4 months or so after I joined the program, which was in 2019. And I had enrolled in that. And within the next 6 months, I had graduated high school at 16 with my high school diploma. Mental health services, I had contact with a therapist while I was there. I did group therapy. I had the opportunity to um, address a lot of the traumas that I had been pushing away and didn't even know was there. Um, and then outside of that, like the restaurant part, um, that was somewhere I really flourished. I took a very liking of being bossy in the kitchen,
Love it.
which yeah, built my confidence and, helped me get through the program. I ended up graduating right around the time we started national expansion efforts for the program. So the ambassador program was born, and I've been an ambassador for the last, I want to say 3 or 4 years now.
Mhm.
And, I've been using my story to be an inspiration both to communities as well as other youth that are going through, maybe similar situations as I have. And I've been using my story to advocate for youth justice reform, not only here at home in Dallas, but on a national level as well.
That's incredible. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. I'm sure that there's so much more we'll go into throughout our conversation today. But for those who don't know, could you talk a little bit about what Café Momentum actually is and the services they offer, that y'all would talk about at orientation and kind of the restaurant side as well as the additional services that you just mentioned?
Yes. So Café Momentum is a 12-month paid internship for kids that are coming out of the justice system between the ages of 15 to 19. And Café Momentum was created essentially to be a wraparound support system for kids that were coming out into risky situations, or that were at risk to fall back into the systems and habits that got them involved with the system in the first place. So while they're there, they have access to mental health services that includes therapy as well as group therapy. They have 24/7 case management that interns always have access to. Those case managers help find resources for things that interns might need, as far as like food, clothing, financial assistance, and things of that sort, as well as the homeschool program that I mentioned that majority of the interns end up enrolling into, because it's more of like a one-on-one, more comfortable situation. Um, because while you're in the program, you have to be enrolled in school or making efforts to get your GED, things like that. And then we also do have the restaurant aspect of the program, where the interns will work in every single spot within the restaurant. So they work front of the house, which is hosting, serving, expo, busing. The interns run all of that, as well as back of the house, where the interns are cooking your food, they're washing the dishes, they're baking the baked goods, and everything is from scratch. It's a scratch kitchen. They work with local gardens, local farms, and it's just really a space where kids can come and hang out and also work on themselves, as well as create new connections with both community and peers. And they have the opportunity to be around positive influences and positive role models, which through and through plays a hand in them growing and becoming more responsible with themselves and their decisions.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your personal experiences working at the restaurant and some of those maybe like mentor stories that you have that really stick out to you, and why this experience has been so meaningful enough for you to become an ambassador and tell other people like, hey, you should really be a part of this?
Definitely. So as far as my experience goes, it was very rocky because I started the summer before COVID happened. So there was a little hiatus in my internship. But for me, it started off really honestly how it starts off for a lot of interns. It was just a way to make money, because most of us, our situations where we were making these mistakes and, you know, doing these things to get involved with the justice system in the first place had to do with money, because we're coming from, you know, not the best circumstances. But over time, like I mentioned, when I got there, they immediately started treating me like family almost. So that's definitely what it became for me. When I got into the program, I was 15, and I will say about 15-year-old Tristyn, she was very timid. She was closed off. She didn't like talking about her situations. She was very emotionally detached from really anything. She was just doing what she needed to do. But as my attendance became consistent, and I was there at Cafe, I was learning about myself. I was not learning not only about myself, but I was able to pinpoint a lot of the reasons I was making the decisions the way I was. Um, Going back to like my childhood trauma, like I just thought that was normal, and having the opportunity to talk with someone really played a huge part in like how I talk to myself, how I view life. I took on a very more positive outlook on what my life looked like, because I was very like, there's a saying that I like to say where it's I was so focused on my microscope that I wasn't looking through my telescope to look further past what was going on right then and there. And that helped me a lot, because it allowed me to let people in, and it allowed me to let people be there for me to find support in others. And having the role models that I had at Cafe Momentum, was something that was different for me. Like I didn't really, all I had was my mom, and she wasn't necessarily the best person, but she was doing the best she could do. So having that support really like helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And even like it helped a lot, especially with like building my confidence, working in the kitchen, like making these fine dining, like 5-star like plates. Like just like I did that. Like this is something that I can do. And all in all, like it kind of pushed me towards, believing in both myself again and, you know, building goals and actually dreaming and, being confident in myself. And as far as like my mentoring goes, I don't know. I feel like I became an ambassador because like my kids, honestly, because my mom, she was real big on like, she didn't like talking about her, because me and her, honestly, like when I look back now, we have very similar childhoods, the way that we grew up. And I started going on somewhat to like the path that she was trying to keep me away from. Um, so I made a pact with myself where, when it comes to my kids, I'm gonna be open about what I went through so that hopefully they don't have to go through that too, or they can, confide in me and know that I understand. And, my kids, they are the next generation. And with the ambassador program and the Cafe Momentum period, it's like we're catering to both the current generation and the next one by giving them the support that they need to, all in all, contribute back to society. And that was why I became an ambassador, because I'm using my story to inspire others so they hopefully can inspire others, and just keep that cycle going. As far as like who I feel like I've been the biggest mentor to is other young parents that do join the program, because like I said, I had my first kid when I was 16 years old, and I feel like I can be that support for others that don't necessarily have it. And that's something that I've been real adamant about here at home is, connecting with our young parents and, just being a shoulder they can lean on, because parenting gets hard for adults, and it's even harder for teenage parents as well. So that's like my big mission when it comes to what I do with the ambassador program.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm sure your kids look up to you so much already, and what you're doing is really inspiring. So thanks so much for talking about it. If you could go back to whenever you first started at Cafe Momentum, what would you tell that version of yourself now to just keep them motivated to keep going?
I would tell 15-year-old Tristyn to keep going, because there definitely were times when I was in the program where I felt like it was all pointless. Um, just because like I had a hard time getting over like where I was in my life, because I obviously was no longer able to live the regular life of a teenager. And I feel like I still, what got me there in the first, what got me at Cafe Momentum in the first place was, trying to grow up too fast. And then like I got to that point where it's like, okay, you grown up now. And it was like, it was something that I had to come to terms with. Um, so like I would definitely tell her like, keep your head up. These people are gonna stick with you in the long run. It's considering now it's been 7 years, I think, since I've been with them. But yeah, just, trust. You gotta trust people sometimes. I know it's hard, but some people do generally want the best for you, and they want you to do what's best for yourself. And, the only way you can do that is to commit to yourself and be consistent and allow that space for you to have grace and, keep pushing.
Yeah. No, that's so inspiring, and I think, it being Second Chance Month in April, it's just a really important time to talk about these kinds of stories. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Cafe Momentum, if a student decided to leave the program, they could come back and reapply, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That
So,
definitely was the situation for me.
yeah. Yeah. Describe that, how that's important in a part of an organizational structure to be able to have that open door policy of you left, but, you're coming back and you're going to work hard and we want you to have another chance at this.
Yes. So especially with me, because that's something that actually happened with my tenure in the program. Even I came back after COVID, but I did leave again because I was like, I'm just gonna go get another job. Like it'll be the same. But like I tried that and it was not, my management team was not the best. And I was like, can I come back? Because I'm not gonna lie, I was still very young. So like you know how teenagers get. I thought I knew what was best, even though I had professionals literally telling me like, girl, get it together, we got
Mm-hmm.
everything you need here. I still thought I knew what was best for me. uh, and I left, and it was not any like all fuzzy warm loving how Cafe Momentum was. And I was kind of like nervous to come back because it was like I left y'all thinking I was gonna find better and I didn't. But they immediately were like, it's okay, like this is a risk that you took, like this is a choice, like we're not keeping you hostage. But we do want you to realize like that you have to take accountability in your life and take control of this, like the resources that are available to you. But like they never made me feel like guilty about it or anything like that. And there also was another time that I had to leave the program as well. um, but it was not the best terms.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I cried and everything. They were like, you have to come back next orientation. Like, I'm sorry. But like, it was something that I felt like really bad about it because like, one, I lost like the progress that I had. Sorry, my voice
Okay,
just
you're
got.
good. Take your time.
I had lost because like Cafe Momentum, we have like a tier system when it comes to like what determines if you're ready to graduate or not. And like I was like almost about to graduate and I dropped the ball on, my progress. And that's something that I definitely take accountability for. Um, but like I was crying, I was just very upset about it. And they're like, it's okay, you made a mistake. We're like, you have the opportunity to come back. We're not giving up on you. And having that space, where there's adults who one respect you even though you make mistakes, um, but to like let you know that like they're not going to up and disappear, that they're consistently there for you whether you're a part of the program or not. It's super important because I know that I was struggling a lot because I felt like I didn't have anybody. But once those mistakes were made and they like had the one-on-one with me and was like, girl, we're here, like we're not, like once they let me know that they were locked in the way that I wanted and needed to be, it gave me the motivation to stick through it and, take Cafe Momentum for everything that it had for me.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, clearly, I mean, like Cafe does so much for all of the individuals that come through their doors. How would you, describe the importance of Cafe Momentum, not just for the individual, but also for the greater communities that the locations are in?
Yeah, so I would definitely say that Cafe Momentum is important for communities because it is community based, not even just for the individuals, but Cafe Momentum does a lot of partnering with local nonprofits and things like that. So we also get exposure to other organizations that we had no clue were in our communities or around us. Um, one of the things that I remember, it's all honestly about exposure as well, because once you learn that there's more out there than just what's inside your little bubble of community, it makes you aspire to want to do more and to, you know, learn more about not just yourself, but the city that you're in. And once you learn about, you know, once you learn about others and can take that into consideration, it makes you want to give back, but also, do better. Um, and I feel like with communities, it also, brings awareness to, youth that are sometimes swept under the rug, and, those cycles end up continuing into their adulthood. And it kind of just, takes you out of this pool of being at risk and puts you into more of a network of support and community, which in the long run plays a huge part in, growing past our mistakes.
For sure. And we talk a lot about kind of like cycles of crime and risk and recidivism at Right on Crime. specifically with juveniles coming out and the likelihood of reoffending. So what do you think happens when young people don't have access to programming like Café Momentum whenever they are exiting the juvenile justice system?
I feel like when youth don't have the access to resources, to programs like Café Momentum, it definitely leaves them vulnerable to, like I said, falling back into those same bad habits, because you're just getting released from a juvenile detention that you probably weren't treated the best in the first place. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like you are already like angsty, like you've been sitting on your hands for so long, like you are ready to go out and feel normal again. And normal isn't always necessarily the best thing. What we consider to be normal isn't the best option for us, because a lot of us, like I said, are going back into the same communities, the same situations, to the point where we're not being surrounded by anything new that would make us, aspire to make different decisions. Like we've already planned our outcome because of how, our life is already going, or we're not even really thinking about our future period. But with access to programs like Cafe Momentum, you have the opportunity to, you know, work on yourself and to get away from the influences that could be possibly, making you reoffend. Because with Capital Momentum, our program is a little bit different because we have a community services center where that is accessible to the interns at all times. So it's like you can spend most of your day with Capital Momentum and the team, and these are positive influences. They're putting you in the right space, the right head space to, make better decisions, because you're there from in the morning, especially if you're in the homeschool program. You're there from 9 in the morning and you work the night shift, like you work through dinner service and you're there till 9 p.m. So it's like you're just going home to go to sleep and then you're coming back. You
Yeah.
don't have the opportunity to be around those influences that could make you do things you shouldn't really be doing.
Yeah. And you've mentioned a few times now just how Cafe has really empowered you to think not just about, the microscopic level and to look through that telescope. So what do you hope now for your future? What are some goals, and how has being in this program inspired those?
I feel like Cafe Momentum might have inspired me a little too much.
Yeah.
Because I graduated the program when I was 17. So like I've jumped back and forth between a lot of career options.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be a baker at first because like I built so much confidence with baking at Cafe Momentum, like to the point where like they would let me run stations by myself without like the head chef there. So I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to culinary school. But then
Mm-hmm.
I started the ambassador program, and I started with like public speaking, media interactions. I got to get a lot more insight on what the justice system looks like for youth on a national spectrum, and I realized that this is not just an issue that's at home. So then I got inspired to be an attorney, and I started school for that. And then eventually I kind of just wound back down. Like I know that I want to do something that is a space for like nonprofit or even just like some type of development. So now that I'm not pregnant anymore, I'm actually about to go back to school to get my degrees and certificates in child development, and hopefully become a teacher somewhere.
That's
That's what we're
amazing.
working on now. I'm still very young and it's been changing around, but it's like everything that I do with Cafe Momentum instills so much confidence and inspiration in me to be something that can give back, do something that can give back to my
Mm-hmm.
community, and it's like meaningful work. That's where my standpoint is now. It may change again, but I've kind of taken up like a jack of all trades thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just learning whatever I can along the way, because that's just who I am.
And
Sorry.
I'm the same way. I feel like I have a million dream jobs. I'm like, and what about this? And that makes life
Hmm.
more fun. And it's so incredible that you have the space to think about all of those and the drive to make any one of them happen. That's so cool that you wanted to be a baker. I hope that your kids still get to see that side of you sometimes whenever you cook for
Yeah,
them.
I still bake at home.
Yeah.
I still bake at home. I don't know. I'm trying to get into the entrepreneurship. Like all the rest of my ambassador team, like they're all like, they have some type of business, and I'm like, let me try. So who
That's
knows? The
great.
bacon might come back up again. I might do like a baking school or something at this point. Like Café Momentum,
Do it
everything that
all.
I do with them, they're like, girl, you're great. You're going to rock it. So it's like, I'm always ready to take that risk if it means that, risk, there's no reward if there's no risk,
Yeah. So you're saying then that a lot of the, students that go through the program, they end up being entrepreneurs. Is that a common denominator that you're seeing? Yeah.
Definitely so. Mostly because, we do this thing at Cafe Momentum from 3 to 4 o'clock. It's called Family Meal. But for the last 30 minutes of it, we do like we have like a community partner or somebody that our case management team is connected with. They come in and they talk about whatever from like financial literacy. They have like health classes. We have like doctors or like other entrepreneurs come up, or like if an intern tells their case manager like, hey, I'm kind of interested in this. And it's sometimes, majority of the time, it's honestly not restaurant based. Like it's like, oh, I want to become a barber, or I'm going to be a welder, I'm going to go to trade school. Like they'll connect with community people and have them come up there and talk to us. And it kind of just like, oh, well, this is nowhere near as hard as I thought it would be to, qualify to do this, or whatever when it comes to that. So yeah, definitely like it's like almost everybody becomes some type of something where they're making their own money.
Yeah. And I feel like every adult in my life has always told me, it's about, who you know whenever you're in this space and looking for what to do in your future. So it sounds like Cafe Momentum is a really good platform of just being that we will help connect you to the people that you need to know in order to go after your dreams. Yeah. And you were talking about, getting involved in the policy space, maybe eventually doing law. So if you could speak to a policymaker right now, what would you want them to know about programs like this and the importance of, investing in similar initiatives and programs for other youth exiting the justice system?
Yes. So if I were to talk to a policymaker right now, I would want them to know that programs like Cafe Momentum do work. It really is all just a matter of access. And, you can't really have access if you don't have funding. And I know that that's something that policymakers that, that's their thing is funding, and communities would really benefit from having programs like Cafe Momentum, you know, in their arm space, because it creates better outcomes for said communities as well as the people that stay in them. Because when kids do come through the program and they have the resources they need, they don't really feel the need to, go commit crime or negatively impact their communities, because they have access to the resources that they need. And having that space is honestly, it's majority up to said policymakers, because you can't have resources, you can't have programs without the money.
Yeah. And, because it is Second Chance Month, could you just, to sum it all up, just describe, like, what does a second chance mean to you personally?
A second chance to me personally, the first word that comes to mind is grace. Because with me, like I mentioned with my story, my biggest hurdle was getting past the guilt and disappointment I felt in myself because of the decisions that I made that did not impact my life in the best way. And I was able to give myself that second chance to move past that and create a better life for myself and confidence, because I gave myself grace, as well as those that were around me that that were kind of impacting my decisions, but also, giving grace to others as well, because it's so easy to look at something at face value rather than deeper than the surface, and, really understanding why decisions were made. And when you're able to give that grace to others as well as, yourself, it opens the gateway to those second chances and building a better life.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thanks again so much for joining us today and for being so willing to share your story. It's been a really fun conversation and just getting to know you more. And I hope to talk to you again soon. But for those listening, thank you for tuning into the Right on Crime podcast. If you want to learn more about Right on Crime, you can go to rightoncrime.com.